I am more likely now to be able to find pleasure in small things. This is the little book of Ikigai by Ken Mogin. I would like to dedicate this video to my sister who was kind enough to somehow align with my book list, even though I didn't say not even a word regarding my book bucket list, and she gifted me the little book of Ikigai by Ken Moji, a neuroscientist from Japan who brings to the Western world all these philosophical Japanese concepts, and one of them is the way of living a sustainable life. 5 pillars, one idea, and multiple stories to prove these 5 pillars as not something extraordinary through the huge highs and of course lows, but something that can be achievable by everyone. So today we are analyzing and explaining the little book of Ikigai and its 5 pillars. Thank you, sister, for giving me this book. So let's get started with the first pillar, starting small. Ken Moji opens with this particular pillar by sharing a lovely story of Jiro Ono, a sushi owner who started his business, sushi business, because he couldn't afford anything else at the time, and his incredible story of massaging an octopus for about an hour relentlessly, to the degree that the meat becomes so soft and tender, and how this process is dedicating to his particular, let's say, ways of preparing the sushi, so the rest of the world actually gets the real process of this particular, let's say, dedicating Ikigai by starting small. So the idea with all that is, by starting small, you create a level of momentum, and you don't do it necessarily for the outcome of acknowledgement. No. It's the master of little things that accumulate over a long period of time, and this accumulation requires a repetitive process of little small things that create momentum, and that builds up throughout the years, as with Ono, who actually became a famous sushi owner in Japan, and other sushi restaurants actually incorporated his, let's say, peculiar methods that at first struck the rest of the owners, but also got acknowledged nicely by politicians around the world and, of course, the sushi enthusiasts. Well, self-trust builds up through small things that create momentum of one's self-competence, and that can accumulate, but it requires time, requires a level of feedback loops, and in order to create those, you need to first grab the abstract concept and make it a concrete, as massaging an octopus for an hour. Ken Moji later on goes to the second pillar. The second pillar is releasing oneself. So what do we have here? Ken Moji created the great analogy of being a child. So a kid does not confine its way of meaning by the societal expectations. And for a child, releasing oneself does not have anything to do with being over-conscious about status, achievement, and any level of identity at this point. A child's mind is result into being fully present and create a level of exploration by reacting to things even. So the psychological aspect that I can derive from that part is Kenboji wants us to incorporate the spirit of play. By doing that, we are capable of immersing ourselves in such activities and allow ourselves to release this child play energy which once had and perhaps lost, so that we can immerse ourselves into a task and see the world with a pair fresh of eyes, like different, let's say, lenses, if you may. So the psychological takeaway from that, with one sentence in the second pillar of Ikigai, would be, for me at least, be mentally flexible to your own identity, because when the identity is quite rigid, it breaks. So by allowing us to have this flexibility to switch on and off amongst a multi-dimensional identity, and one of them is the kids identity, the playful spirit, if you may, we immerse ourselves into the task in order to find different takeaways, different insights from, let's say, a banal or, let's say, trivial task, so that we can create a new sense of meaning, if you may, from such tasks. So I would say this is something about being, have this beginner's mind, if you may, when there are not as many expectations, because in order to master something, first you must allow yourself to be a fool and be playful. So I remember myself when I once started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ in short. When I was too rigid in my first sessions, I gassed out, I was frustrated, and I've noticed that this is not the way to express myself, but also start learning. And after a while, with proper guidance and supportive environment, I was capable of play along the lines of failure, my own, let's say, set of skills, and learning through having fun. And soon after, all the sessions start becoming play-like, friendly, competitive, challenging, when I immerse into this spirit of play. That allowed me to express myself in a much more, let's say, flexible way. So that was the second pillar of Ikigai. Pillar number 3, harmony and sustainability. Kenmoji provides us with a great example of the Japanese people who gather up and be on the radio and listen to the famous radio taiso. So it's an exercise to just get the body moving, having your let's say morning moving body movement. That is really important to kick off the day. And there is no instructor, no perfect form. Some people come early, some leave late or earlier. It doesn't matter. They make their own movements. The idea is to have a sustainable communal feeling, and this sustainable communal feeling can provide a level of harmony. So it can be anything that you can create sustainably so that you can maintain it over the years. So in my case, I loved to talk with, let's say, strangers in any setting. Just as I was traveling all the way through Flixbus, by the way, subscribe for more so that I can actually get a train instead of a bus. So as I was getting on the bus, Flixbus, to go and visit my girlfriend to Germany, I was struck by how easy you can actually be of use of others and create this communal feeling, which can be echoing from the Adlerian psychology of being of use to others, not in the doing and achieving level, but on the being level. So as I spoke to a stranger by offering to, let's say, change seats so that he can actually spend time with his girlfriend, he actually was very pleased. His name was Omar from Egypt, a person who currently works as a developer, and 2 hours and 20 minutes afterwards we kept on going, talking. Omar approached me and asked me from where I come from, and from this surface, let's say, level of interacting with someone, we start talking and even exchange ideas and some advice on certain deep, let's say, matters, as if we were friends. We haven't seen each other, and I'm sure you can resonate with that. And despite the fact that the journey was almost 2.5 hours, it felt as if it was only 30 minutes long. Of course, the psychological part that it can be, of course, embedded to some degree in our neurobiology is that the feeling of belonging, the communal feeling of achieving the harmony can reduce stress and in a hormonal level, so that we feel a level of, let's say, satisfaction and warmth by accepting, by getting the level of acceptance, if you may, from our, let's say, community. Because even in the Adlerian psychology, the level of community and be of use of to others creates the purpose of life, creates the Ikigai. And these are, of course, two combined ideas of which I've had simply because I read a lovely book quite recently, apart from the little book of Ikigai. And this is a video from another for another time, and that book is The Courage to Be Disliked. Great book, and I'm gonna make a video about that another time. Moving on the fourth pillar, the joy of little things. Kenmoji once again incorporates the Japanese culture and on how they use this particular pillar. So for instance, how much importance they put on the little things, such as the joy of a tea ceremony. Not long ago, I went over to a retreat in a Shaolin temple here in Germany, and I've noticed joy can be found in these little things as a tea ceremony, and this one creates a sustainable positive feedback loop, if you may, on a psychological level, simply because it doesn't require huge dopaminergic highs with a huge below the threshold rebound effects, as I'm sure you have experienced when, let's say, you go to I don't know, let's say a massive event, and then afterwards for a couple of days you feel a bit low, and that's because of these huge highs. So the joy of little things, at least in my personal account, is the way that I'm looking forward to make my coffee, my double espresso, because I have an espresso machine at home, and every morning I've put so much importance on this particular, let's say, cue of the day in order to have a proper kickoff, and it helps me quite a lot to start my day. So that was the fourth pillar. Hello, are you still here? Well, here's the thing. We have the last pillar, being in the here and now, being in the present. Kenmoji brings a lovely story from Shei Shonagon, a court lady who lived in about in the year 1000, and she actually was responsible for the pillow book that creates this idea of mindfulness and of being present in the present moment. Research has shown vividly that the healthy adult brain, at least the majority of the time throughout the day, thinks about memories, about thoughts which are tied to the present moment. So take for example someone who has a very delicate job and the concentration is paramount. If you are not in the present moment, in the here and now, then it's impossible to get the job done. This one also has taken place in so much research that has been done in professional climbers. One step and you're a goner, especially if you are a free solo climber. A level of concentration to map all the steps through rigorous training is paramount. And the here and now present moment is so important because you see that with even the social media, you spend time on something, huge spikes, and the complex machine that goes by the name brain recognizes a pattern. And this pattern is I want to have it quick, fast, and then the long-term effects from all these screens and spending time by overstimulating is to lose the moment of being present for the long periods of time. So the concentration levels, which is a skill to develop, weakens through time, and as a result it becomes almost impossible to attend a lecture worth of 45 minutes and be present. And of course, I'm not saying that you're gonna be 100% fully present in throughout the 45 minutes of lecture. No, the brain drifts away, and we know that. But you can see that even with professional athletes, they have, let's say, such as a professional tennis player, a long bout of, let's say, 1.5 hours of a match. But the elites determine how good they're gonna be by rebounding and reconcentrating themselves. So even if the mind, which naturally does, drifts away, they quickly can bounce back and concentrate once again. And back to the lecture aspect is the same thing. So when Kanimoji mentioned Seishonagon's observations of a child, the child's face was illustrated on a melon, or let's say a sparrow that hops awkwardly, is by allowing yourself to be present, and then whatever thought comes, you just observe and you carry on. The level of being observant is relevant and correlates highly with your concentration levels and how quickly you can bounce back, even if the mind drifts away, which it will. And my goal to this is to actually use that in my own way of life. So from time to time, what I try to do is be in the present moment by do a quick 5-minute meditation, or even these, let's say, self-hypnosis from reverie up, quick bursts, so that I can actually allow myself to be in the present moment and train this muscle as much as I can. And when I attend a lecture at the university, I consciously try to bounce back and regain my focus, which is a muscle that all of us can once again strengthen as we strengthen our muscles at the university's lecture, gym, sport, you name it. And then You can quickly find out how you can possibly do that by resisting the reflex to go back on the phone when we have these moments of boredom, which are quite important for the brain itself. So meaning doesn't come from adding more in that sense. Meaning derives naturally from what is already there by allowing yourself to observe it. That was the fifth pillar, being in the here and now. Today, after this video, choose one thing to do and pay attention. This is really important. And listening to all these and checking all the 5 pillars, which of these pillars would you find that you are missing from your life? So when you go back, I would say read the little book of Ikigai, and remember, Ikigai whispers, pay attention, the little things matter.